Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming to the WiCyS Military Affiliates June member meeting. We are super excited to host our guest speaker, Maril Vernon at She Who Hacks, also known as the One Woman Purple Team.
You got there.
She is an ethical hacker, senior application security architect, and Purple Team program manager. She is also the co-host and co-founder of a really cool podcast called The Cyber Queens. It's an all-female led podcast aimed at increasing female and LGBTQ diversity in cybersecurity. She's also the COO of Teach Kids Tech, a nonprofit organization with the goal of getting technology and its educational resources to children in underprivileged communities and increasing the technical capability and cyber awareness in tomorrow's workforce. Moreover, she's named as one of the Epic Women in Cyber, the 2023 Cyber She Security Top 10 Women in Cyber, and she's currently a 2023 Women's Cyber Jutsu Award nominee. So we're super excited to have you here tonight, and we can't wait to hear your talk.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful intro and for completely making my intro slide unnecessary. So we'll just skip past that when we get to it. Thank you so much. I'm actually super happy to be here. I love WiCyS and all it does. And I have a special place in my heart for the military affiliate because I myself am a veteran and I am a former military spouse as well. So, I, as someone who broke into security, I did it 4 years ago now, but not too long ago. But my experience and my tactics, I know what it was like to be there. I know what it's like to be at a place in life where you're like, these fields, these places where you want to be don't very easily meet you where you are. Like the training can be inaccessible. Where are the resources? Who do you trust? What's a good boot camp? Things like that. So at the end, I will open up for questions. You don't just have to ask me questions about purple teaming. You can ask me questions about anything about my career development, anything about breaking into cyber that's on your brain. I'm happy to help as a resource. Or if you are not comfortable in public forum, please LinkedIn me after. My LinkedIn is open to anybody and everybody here, even if you're catching this on the recording. So I'm going to give a talk today about purple teaming, which is a niche that I helped to pioneer over basically my entire career over the last 4 years. So it's very near and dear to my heart. It's a very watered down presentation. So we're not going to get too technical, but there will be some technical speak in there. So I'll do my best to break things down. And if there are questions along the way, I'm not monitoring the chat because I'm in presenter mode, but someone feel free to stop me or tell me if there is a question, or we can get them at the end. And hopefully this doesn't go too far over anybody's head, but hopefully it does spark your interest in what collaborative security can look like. So I'm personally very excited. So with that, I'm going to call this talk WTF is a purple team. And that is because you may not know what one is. At least a lot of people that I've encountered have not. So the plan today is that we're going to go over the general methodology of a purple team, how you plan for and assemble one, the general roadmap of how purple team activities can look, a few of my favorite tools and resources at the end kind of get you started. Again, I'm not sure how many people here are working in technical capacities already or cyber affiliated capacities, but hopefully it sparks your interest, or maybe you've heard of these things or you haven't, or if you want to see how you can bring them to your job or you want to aspire to be a part of one, please just let me know. As the wonderful host mentioned, my name is Maril Vernon. My handle is at She Who Hacks. I am known as the One Woman Purple Team. I was formerly a pen tester and a red teamer. Now I'm an enterprise purple teamer. So I still have those red team skills, but I do it in more of a purple team capacity, which I'll explain in a minute. I do help my friend out on her nonprofit. And I do also have my own podcast, which is called The Cyber Queens right there in my background. So please, everyone here, feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you're interested in following along. If you ever have questions at any point in time, I'm open as a resource to you all. Again, I know what it's like to be in the military, to be pulled along with your spouse's orders, to have all these resources available to you and yet feel very inaccessible to fit in with your lifestyle. So please do let me know. So general methodology for a purple team. What is a purple team exercise? This is honestly, what is a purple team? What is a purple team exercise? They're kind of one and the same thing. So the official definition, if you were to Google it out there on the interwebs, of a purple team is this mercurial cybersecurity testing exercise in which experts take on the roles of both red and blue teams with the intention of providing deeper assurance activities that deliver more tailored, realistic assurance and risk to the organization. It's a bunch of blah. It's crap. So please don't listen to that. Basically what it is at its core is purple teaming is just collaborative security, but with that offensive piece built in. So if you've ever done it or seen it in a military or in a private industry context, sometimes purple teaming can look like a red teamer sitting with the defender, who would be the blue teams. So when I say blue teams and red teams, the red teams are the offensive people like me. So those ethical hacker or adversarial emulation type folks. And then the blue teamers would be the defenders. These terms come from the Cold War era of warfare where, America blue, the home team, good, Kremlin red, bad. So that's where red teamers and blue teamers got their names from. So sometimes purple teaming looks like having a red teamer sit with your blue team while a red team exercise is happening, and they try to guide them to the places where they can find the indicators of compromise, where they can find the adversary and tell them what they should be looking for and why, and try to say at this point, this is what the hackers might be doing. If you see this in the logs, if you see this happening, this is what could be going on, and try to guide them. Sometimes, especially if you've ever participated in or heard of Cyber Shield, which is a giant purple team exercise for National Guard blue team units. We have pen testers volunteer their time to help offensively test blue team units. What we do is we do a catch me if you can style thing where there's one purple team liaison between the two of us. And we are basically firing off offensive actions, and the blue team is trying to find us. But they're not really given too much guidance as to where we're doing or what we're doing, where we're doing it, or how we're doing it. So it's not as advantageous for them. You have to be really on top of your game. Organizations who succeed at these types of operations have been doing offensive ops for a long, long time, and generally have done several iterations of purple teaming, even without realizing it, before they get to true clandestine style red team ops like this. Most often, and my favorite example of a purple team exercise, is to have all three pieces work together. So if I'm on the red team, I will still act as the purple liaison. If I am the liaison between two independent teams, I still want everyone to break open their books and work together to simultaneously execute something that is offensive and help the defenders understand why. Why did I do that? How did I do it? Why did I pick this way over this way? How can you start to find activities like this? At this point in time, we're hoping this will give me this piece, which will farther me this way. And we're educating them on adversarial behaviors, motivations, and mindsets so that they understand, when the hackers get in, they don't just execute a shell script and they have root domain control and breaches are on the news and everything is bad. It takes us a long time. It takes a lot of situational awareness, a lot of discovery, a lot of, poking around, seeing what we've got permissions to do, where we can get away with doing things, where we can hide things. And it's good for several reasons. It's good because the blue team sees the red team openly fumble around a lot. Oh, our payload didn't go off. Our attack didn't work. We didn't get the callback we were hoping for. I don't have write commands over here. So they see us kind of having to pivot and be flexible and jump around and try new things. And that makes them feel good, right? Because it makes them feel like, oh, they didn't just come in and pwn our system and we all suck at our jobs. And also for the red team, it helps them educate them. How would you alert on this? How would you be able to find this? How would you be able to stop this? If you can't stop this, this is what it would look like in the logs. This is how, if you see this and you can correlate it with something else, that might be something bad, whereas before they might not have noticed something. So we're trying to train everybody to become better defenders. And once they up their game, the red team can up their game and everyone can really start playing off of each other. But there's better morale. You're all people to each other. We're getting rid of something you might have heard people talk about called the us versus them mentality, which is, oh, the red team is evil and they just want to come in and make us look bad. So we're not going to give them any help. We're not going to give them no assume breach, no basic user accounts, no system diagrams, none of that. We want them to either fail or succeed all on their own. And we don't want it to be that, because at the end of the day, the red teamers and the blue teamers work for the same org. We will all get breached together or not get breached together. And all of our checks are signed by the same people. So we all have a vested interest in making sure the org is secure. And yes, we do have to deliver bad news sometimes. Sometimes we achieve our objectives and sometimes we don't. And we're like, oh, that's such a win for them. I'm so proud, but also I'm really sad. I swear I'm good at my job as a red teamer, but sometimes we don't hack the thing. Sometimes it goes badly for us. So this is really my favorite example of a purple team exercise style, because at its core, purple teaming is very simple. Like I said, it's just blue and red working together in collaboration, explaining and repeating attack activities to actively measurably improve defenses. And what I mean by that is, outside of certain pen testing and red teaming activities, you're going to get a really long list, a report, a pen test report, an output with all the vulnerabilities that they found, all the findings, and they're going to be ranked from critical to informational. Usually they're all critical, just kidding. They're either like all super bad or they're all super not bad or informational. It's very subjective work out there, but basically you get a lot of them because pen testers get a very small amount of time to provide you with as much as possible. And they're like, we want you to secure and plug as many of those holes as you can. So we're going to give you an overwhelming amount of information to work with so that hopefully you fix all those things. But the defensive teams go, that is a lot of stuff. That's a lot of crap that we frankly don't have time to fix because they're already working on their backlog. They've got patching to put out. They've got alerts to investigate. They've got a lot going on and they don't just have time just to fix things that the red team finds. So in our purple team exercises, we like to actively build and test those defenses. I'm like, do you have a rule for this? Can you alert on that? And it's like, no, I can't alert on that. You're using the clipboard for Christ's sake. Do you know how many people use the clipboard? That would add so many false positives, which is an alert on something that looks bad but isn't really bad. So we would be investigating all these bad things when it's just people using the clipboard. I'm like, okay, that's true, but could you alert on people using the clipboard from the command line, which is that little blue and white box? Most users don't use it from a programmatic level. They use it from the interface, right? They use it from the window box. They don't use it from the terminal. So if you can alert on users like account executives and marketing people who should not be doing those things, maybe we can build that. And then we'll test and see if it's working. I can execute it again. I can execute it again. Is it working? Okay, it's working and you see it. Great. We move on. So we actually want to build and test defenses in real time. So we're moving the needle very, very smallly sometimes. Sometimes it's only like 10 attack activities at a time and not, 80 like you get in a pen test report. But again, they're not going to a backlog where no one's ever going to look at them. So we're trying to proactively secure our organization, which at the end of the day is really both of our goals. So this is really all that purple teaming is at its very core. And in fact, I have recently adopted a new philosophy that purple shouldn't even really be a team. It shouldn't be a dedicated team at all. I shouldn't have to bring folks together to do this once a quarter or once every other month or once as resources permit. Purple should really be a permanent mindset and dynamic between the red and blue team. It should be an open collaboration constantly between the two of us. A lot of times as a red teamer, when I enter a new organization, I immediately start reaching out to people and saying, hi, my name is Maril. I'm new to OPSEC. This is what we do. Like, I think you work on this team. I would be really interested in the work your department does to help us influence better operations and stuff like that. What about you? Are you interested in what we do? And I make myself a person. So we become less of that, hidden cloak and dagger, clandestine, like who's the red team and what are they doing? I'm an ally, right? And in that effort, blue teamers will come to me and say, hey, we have a really bad vulnerability and they won't pay attention to it. Could you use that in an operation? Because the second we do anything in red team operation, all the stakeholders are concerned. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We'll help you out. And I get that dynamic ongoing already. And it works really beautifully. I would just love to see it be on a department-wide thing for the whole org rather than just me and a few people. But really that's what purple should be at the end of the day. So before we move into planning and purple team composition, are there any questions so far? Anything I've missed in the chat that is super crucial? Anyone lost completely? Okay, I'm gonna take no news as good news. We shall move on. So planning for a purple team, who are the people involved? What do we test for? What do we need to do it? We're like, great, we want to do it. We want to do this purple team thing. What does that mean? How do we sit down and do it? Yes, so first crucial thing is to start with the people. Now, I call myself the one-woman purple team because if you had absolutely one person and that one person was an ethical hacker or was a defender of some kind, you could realistically get a purple team exercise off the ground. They can be solo-led, solo-run. And I am able to fulfill both sides of those roles. I've served in a CTI, threat hunting, SOC analyst investigator capacity, and I've also served as an ethical hacker. So I have the capabilities to do both. If you set me loose with the tools onto myself, I can do it myself. It's not the most effective way to do it, but for a lot of small startups and small, medium-sized businesses, this is really how they're going to get started. It's going to be one pen tester who is sick of not having their reports read, or one blue teamer who is sick of seeing the same vulnerability and is like, how can I just proactively help my org? So you can do it with just one person. A better team composition is to have at least one of each, right? So maybe someone who's super familiar with all the tools and all the logs and the data sources, and they know where they would go to investigate a certain thing or look at someone's endpoint or look at their username or see their activity. And the red teamer who's doing the educating, launching the attacks, guiding in the detection, and doing the reporting at the same time. So this is better, and this is also a fantastic place to start. But some of the best compositions of purple teams that I have worked on include anywhere from 6 to 9 total people. You don't want to have too many, honestly, because sometimes discussion will go down because people are afraid to look unintelligent in front of their peers. So I always say you can bring one vet, someone who's done a purple with me before, and one newbie to be exposed from each team that I'm going to be involving. So it's not all of these blue teams every time. Sometimes, depending on the objective or on what we're going to be executing, it's a few or all or none of these teams. But I always say a newbie and a vet, and then the next time my newbie is my vet, and they bring a newbie along with them. So quite a few blue teamers and their newbies, at least one purple liaise or guide coordinating in between. That's usually me. I'm taking care of the reporting as well and getting the discussion going if everyone's too afraid to talk. And then 1 to 2 red teamers. Honestly, one will do if you have really sophisticated attacks, and sometimes they get big. It helps to have 2 so they can bounce off of each other so that they don't have to get infrastructure and payloads and callbacks ready to go. But at least 1 red teamer. So that person can be dedicated just to executing the activities, and you can be dedicated to helping and coordinating. But if you do have to boil it down, again, I as the red teamer have served as both the purple and the red teamer before. It can totally be done. So this is also going to depend, by the way, on how your organization is literally organized. Do you have separate detection engineers from your SOC analysts? Are the people in the SOC doing all the things, digital forensics and analyzing CTI and doing incident response? Do you have a separate incident response team? So how you're going to comprise your team is going to be customized to each of the organizations or the companies that you work for or with. So you just need to understand who serves what purpose. You just need to say, who's going to help me investigate alerts, who's going to help me write new rules and detections, and who's able to look at telemetry. If you have those 3 things covered, no matter what department they work in or what their title says, you're generally good to go. So that's basics for team composition. Now, when it comes to when purple team exercises start, when does a company start purple teaming? When should they look at it? When should they be interested? Honestly, most oftentimes, purple teams don't start until shit hits the fan. It's going bad. The attacks are being launched. Events are graduating into incidents. There's war rooms. There's all hands on deck. And they're calling the red teamers in being like, help us with this. And we're like, what do you want us to do? Like, we are them. Do you want us to like help them break it more? Do you want us to, I don't know what you want us to do. That's really the first time the red teamers are sitting in the same room as the blue teamers. We're all looking at each other like, can we help each other get to an objective? We don't know. So that's bad. We don't want to be doing reactive purple teaming. We don't want to be doing purple teaming in the middle of an incident. That's not the way to go, but that is the way most of your organizations will go. Purple teams ideally could start for mid to small to mid-sized companies at the early stages of in-house operations. And that is because you want to graduate from a place of doing vulnerability assessment, using your asset management tools, having data loss prevention things in place, which help you like not email out sensitive information and stuff, and like catch your employees trying to like upload things to Bitbucket and stuff like that. Once you've got those in place and you want to baseline how well they're working, you're like, okay, we've got decent defenses in place, but how well are they really working? Are they doing all the things we say they should? Are they stopping the things they should be stopping? Can Barry in accounting still download Mimikatz? That's really bad. So you want to know that. So you definitely want to do a purple team before you start contracting out for things like pen tests and hiring red teamers, because red teamers are expensive. So are pen tests. And honestly, if you're low hanging fruit, if you're like wide open prey, they're going to be bored. And you hired really expensive resources to do a whole lot of nothing and wait while you get your shit together. So not my recommendation. But if you're about to have a pen test done, and you've done things like vulnerability assessment, or you're getting in there, or you're doing threat modeling, or you're interested, threat modeling is a great precursor to purple activities. Baselining defenses and getting a purple team done ahead of a pen test is great, because ideally you should use the pen test to confirm everything you already knew or found out in your purple, or you can do a purple right after your pen test and say, these were all the things that were found. Let's take that, identify what's repeatable, and have our red side repeat it for us. Like, they found this, how? Okay, this is how. Okay, can we stop it? Okay, we didn't stop it. Okay, do it again. And you kind of start solving the problem they found in the pen test, because the pen testers are going to go, here you go, that was fun, we have another engagement now. So that's a great place to start, especially if you're a small mid-sized company. For larger companies, this is really going to happen probably again after you've already graduated offensive ops and you've passed or conducted regular pen tests. You can at least pass an audit. Maybe you're not ISO certified, but you're getting there. You have regular red team ops conducted. So maybe you have 1 or 2 red teamers or more who are conducting, really sophisticated operations, and they're successful every time. And the blue team is like, oh my God, every quarter, the red team just pwns the shit out of us. That is generally when you want to start bringing in a purple team, because they're not being challenged, they're not being successful, they're not getting any better, and generally it just sucks. I've actually worked on a red team where the blue team was like, yo, we know you guys are good, we know you guys are great, we need you to stop. Please stop conducting operations just for like a quarter so we can catch up, because we're like 3 ops behind y'all. And we're like, oh my God, we're making them feel bad about themselves. We're not even helping. Like, that sucks. So again, bring in the purple teams before you bring in the red teams. It'll be cheaper and it'll serve you better in the long run, at least I believe. So that's when purple teams do usually start. But when they should start, when organizations who are being proactive and they are ahead of their peers could start purple teaming, is when they've got applications and products in development way before the pen test, and definitely well before go live. Do not deliver pen testers or purple teamers an application 2 weeks before go live and say, find all the vulnerabilities so we can publish this to the internet. That's not how that works. That's not giving you time to remediate. That's like, our general vulnerability window is 2 weeks. We need 2 full weeks to freaking test this thing. Don't do that. But if you're in the early stages of development and you're blocking it out and the SDLC is working and you've got DevSecOps and all that jazzy, sexy stuff, then like, bring the purple teamers in and let them advise you from a threat modeling perspective. You've worked that in. Now we can tabletop some things. Great, we've done that. We've documented that. We've got those processes written down. Let's put it to the test and see if it's working and see if all that is going. Let's baseline things. Let's test the defenses you've put in place. Did you incorporate security from the get-go? Because doing it from the get-go is way cheaper. Studies have shown way cheaper and way easier for your developers than doing it 2 weeks before go live. It's not value added for anybody. Please, 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 if nothing else, and you go tell your coworkers to do one thing, stop doing that. Stop pen testing before go live. It doesn't help anybody. So I hope I'm not using a bunch of terms no one has heard. If I am, refer your security people to me and I will explain it again. But any questions before we move on to why we purple team and some of the benefits you can see from it?
Question for you.
Yes.
So you said, when should the purple team start in development? So that is before, so development, as in is that like building test?
Yeah, in the building, in the design and build phase. So typically everything is in the dev environment before it goes to production, right? Before it goes to the live environment. And they usually have things pen tested while they're still in dev, which is fine, I guess. But you want to consider purple teaming in the early stages, in the design and build phases, because again, I can say, if you're going to design modules like this, don't hard code these keys, don't bake this into your code, don't do this, consider this, sanitize this, which is way easier for the dev than saying, go back through all your 10,000 lines of code and fix every instance where you did this, which
it's almost like trying to focus on building security in versus
building security. Yes.
Built in versus built on. So okay.
In an ideal DevSecOps / SDLC utopia, yes, they would incorporate security from the beginning. I hope I converted a mind. That's perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No more questions.
Okay, love it. I love questions. If you can stump me, that would make my day. All right, so why do we do purple teams? What are the objectives? How can they be sustainable as their own programs? Where do they come from? Objectives can come from a number of places. Again, if you've got red team operations, which is what RTO stands for, going already, then it's already got a pre-approved objective and you're just going to repeat that. Again, you're going to identify what's repeatable and keep doing it over and over and over and mitigate around it. Sometimes individual requests come up, like we're thinking of publishing this change. This is like V1 is live, but we're publishing V2. Can you purple team it before we have the pen test done? Or you've got some regulatory requirements. Purple teams cannot replace regulatory pen tests. Pen tests are required by a number of regulatory frameworks, and you still have to have those done. But what a purple team can do is give you your best foot forward for that pen test. Like, nothing in your pen test should be news. You should either be aware of things and you've already got a plan to remediate them, or maybe one or two things are news and you're like, great, we can focus on those because everything else we've already got a ticket open for, or a plan for, or a patch for, or something. But you can do standalone objectives for purple team as well, specifically punctuating specific weaknesses, or again, baselining your defenses. Don't just stand up a firewall and pray that it's working. Don't put user policies in place and pray that they're working. Test that they're working. Make sure they're working, and do it in a friendly, closed environment before you do it with the pen testers, because trust me, it's going to go much, much better for you and your boss. Yes. And with that, like I said, I boiled the talk way down because I didn't want to overwhelm everybody, but I have a much more in-depth, much more technical version of this talk. So if anyone's interested in having me give that or having me come back, I can do that. But to recap what we've learned so far, oh no, apparently I took that slide out. I'll just do it on this slide. So basically we learned what a purple team is, what it means, what purple teaming means, how you can compose a team, who can be on it, when and why you should start purple teaming. And we also touched on some of the tangible benefits you can get from it. The intangibles, the tangible outputs from a purple team was its own talk completely that I gave at Unicon a few months ago, back in April, if you're interested. So those are things like, what are the reporting we use? Like, what are the outputs? What are the metrics and the references and the numbers? And how do I actually prove the value of this thing besides saying the blue and the red team get along better now? That's all its own separate talk. Every talk I say this needs to be its own talk, and it finally was. Again, if you're interested in that, I can go more in depth into that. But basically, we've learned that the value of purple teaming is that it furthers the company's actual defenses. It gets teams working collaboratively. It promotes overall better security, welfare, and champions and big picture security strategy, which is everybody's goal at the end of the day. And then to wrap it out, I'm not sure who does this in their full-time function. These are some of my favorite open source tools. These are some of my favorite other resources related to purple teaming. And that's really the end of the talk. So yeah.
Hi, Maril. It was a really good overview. I appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to the purple team and what types of courses or certifications or experiences we should seek out if we're interested in this path?
Yeah, SANS has a few dedicated purple courses, which I've never taken, so I can't say anything about them. They're a little too expensive for my blood. But there are no per se like take this course to become a pen tester. There are no take this course to become a purple teamer courses out there, unfortunately. I always say a pen tester can come from anywhere. It can, again, or not a pen tester, sorry, a purple teamer. A purple teamer can come from anywhere. Anyone can wake up tomorrow and decide they want to start purple teaming. It can be a dev, it can be an architect, it can be a system administrator, it can be a GRC person, it can be an ISO, it can be an offensive person like me, it can be a SOC analyst. Literally anybody can just decide they want to start learning the capabilities of the other departments from a very, superficial capacity. So the defender I talked about on that slide, like it could be one blue teamer or one red teamer. That blue teamer probably, knows all of his tools really well and knows how to investigate an incident, but maybe they can only use Metasploit at a very low level, or use Burp Suite, which is kind of one of those like done for you, like web app pen testing things. They don't need to be super well versed in a ton of graduated offensive capabilities. That's when you should bring in a pen tester or a red teamer, but they have an interest and they teach themselves a few things, and they teach themselves just enough to learn that I've proven the value that, hey, I did this myself. I threat hunted it myself. I wrote a new rule and now we block on that thing. And now that attack won't work. So my journey into purple teaming was that I was a pen tester, and I was just conducting not even a pen test, a firewall assessment for one of my first companies. And I do them every 6 months, test all the firewalls. And I did that. And I realized, I was like, all this looks really familiar. And I compared my report to my report from the 6-month period prior, and it was identical. All the findings were identical. Everything had persisted. Nothing had been changed. And I was like, wow, like, all I have to change is the date. Like, that makes me sad. no one's reading these, no one's changing anything, nothing's getting more secure. That makes me sad. So I was like, I've got to figure out a way to do this myself. I've got to figure out a way to both find the bad thing and fix the bad thing, to be as, take up as little of the blue teamers' time as possible, right? Because again, not only do they need to write the rules, they need to provision the new assets, they need to do all the patching, they need to monitor all the alerts, they need to do all the active investigations, and they need to find time to remediate the things that I find. So I started purple teaming simply because I had no other option. I wasn't contributing, and I had a desire to learn how to do both so that I could do both unto myself. But everyone's journey into it will be different. I have a lot of builders who come to me. So, we've talked about the red and blue team, offensive, defensive, but the yellow team is neither of those things. Those are the builders, like the architects, the developers, the software engineers, the infrastructure as a code folks. Anyone who builds but doesn't necessarily secure or attack is yellow teamer. And I have a lot of them come to me and say, how do I work on a purple team? And I'm like, you have really neither of the skills that belong on a purple team. But that's not to say you can't do collaborative security. Collaborative security can be done from any job function at any time. If you want to work with the red team, we'll show you how we would attack your code, how we attack an API, how we grep for keys, how we analyze things. Absolutely. And hopefully it will make you secure codes more securely. Like someone had said earlier, if you want to work with the blue team, they can teach you DevSecOps. They can teach you how to incorporate security into your code early on, and then I can try to attack it and we can see how well you did. So, you don't have to work on a purple team to be collaborative, but your journey into collaborative security will be different for everybody. I hope that was a good answer.
Yes, it was. Thank you. I'm in GRC right now in my first cybersecurity role. So it's interesting to learn how I will eventually pivot and what I might do next. Thank you.
I grew up in risk, actually. I grew up doing SOC 2 Type 2 audits. And that was a phenomenal experience because you're getting a nice, easy exposure to the control statements that come from the pillars of how we secure things, right? If you have to protect the confidentiality, availability, and integrity of data, how do we do that? How does that actually look in practicum? That's where the control families and statements come from. And then every time you learn a control statement, like you have to implement encryption in transit. Why? Because in transit, we can steal it. We can man in the middle it. We can take this. Oh, okay, I understand. Why do we have to use this level of encryption? It says you must use a minimum level because there's something called an encryption downgrade attack where we can have a server negotiate, oh, I don't have your $20 bill, but do you take 10s? No, I don't take 10s. Do you take 5? Sure, I'll take a 5. Ooh, you'll take a 5. And now we've downgraded the encryption. So, risk is such a great place to get exposure and experience to a lot of different verticals in cyber. You could go into audit, you could go into privacy, you could go into SOC, you can go so many places from risk. I'm a big fan of people who work in risk. Or you can become a graduated risk expert and become an ISO one day.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that helps. There's a lot of information. I'm happy to repeat any of this for someone in a DM if they need it, by the way. Or in the recording, if anyone in the recording has a question and wants to shoot that to me as well. Anything else? Anything else?
I do have a question. I actually have 2 questions.
Yes.
So how is your study plan like when it comes to like taking the CEH?
Oh, the CEH?
Yes.
So I took the CEH as part of my master's curriculum through WGU because at the time I wanted industry certifications and I had no way to pay for them. So I was like, if I go to WGU and use my FAFSA, then I can federally fund my CEH and my ECIH essentially. So I just did their preparatory course. EC Council also has a great preparatory course. They will literally, it's one of those things where they'll teach you the test. And I've been pen testing for a few years, right? But I failed CEH my first 2 times. It took a 3rd attempt for me to pass because of the way they ask questions. I'm like, I am not used to thinking like this. Also, I don't memorize Nmap. If I have an Nmap flag question, I just Google it like everybody else. So that was very different. But what I will say is if you can become an expert in all the tools, so just understand if you needed to get a certain answer, what tool you would use. If you are wireless pen testing, what are the tools like Bluetooth and Aircrack NG and all those things? If you're doing web app pen testing, if you're doing IoT, Internet of Things, like a smart device pen testing, what tools would you use? If you know the conversive tool for every type of pen test. That's a great place. It's probably 30% of it. Another 30% is memorizing NMAP flags, literally NMAP formulas for different types of scans. If it's like, what's a half open scan? You need to know that that's TAC-ST, and that's like, you need to know those things. And on the job, you don't need that on the job. You can Google that stuff, but just memorize it for the test. And then the last 30% I would say is knowing the attacks. So if they're like, oh no, heartbleed attack is happening, dragon blood attack is happening, WannaCry is happening, what type of attack is that? You just have to understand what each of these attacks were and what they attack. So this attacks encryption, this attacks WPA2 keys, this attacks cloud environments, this attacks blah, blah, blah. So if you can understand the attacks, the tools, and Nmap, you're solid.
Awesome. And then the second part of my question is, how is your podcast like? Like, how often do you go live on your podcast?
Oh, we go live on the podcast every Friday at 9:15 Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, or 12:15 p.m. Eastern. So at 15 past the hour, because we found that going live on the hour does not work for us. So it's about 15 minutes past. And all the past iterations of it are available on YouTube. Since we started going live, I haven't posted the recordings to the podcast platforms yet, like Spotify and Apple yet. I'm a little behind on those, but all of the lives are available on YouTube as well as on LinkedIn if you go to the Cyber Queens page. So if you just do LinkedIn/company/ the Cyber Queens, it'll take you to us.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, hope to see you in the comments. Marla, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Marla's got her hand up. Anyone else? Who else was about to speak?
It's me. It's Maril, actually.
Oh, Maril. Okay.
What advice would you give someone that is just starting out in cybersecurity, and they know they want to do defense?
You want to do defense.
Yeah.
Are you already have your first cyber job, or you're literally trying to get into cyber still?
Oh, me? I have my job, and I have 2 jobs, so I'm gonna be hitting you up after this. But I'm gonna I know I want to do defense. So what advice would you give someone who says they want to defend the network?
Yeah, a great place to start with training for higher echelons of that is Security Blue Team. They've got phenomenal, kind of like all those like Red Team Academy courses, but for the blue side. And it's like literally the only people I've seen do it for the blue side. And I hear wonderful things. So I would start there. I would also say if you're interested in being a defender, kind of decide what kind of environment you want to defend. Do you want to defend on premises? So network-based environments, which are very different from cloud. Serverless environments. And, if you want to be a defender, I say become a cloud expert. It's not going away. We need cloud architects now more than ever because people don't understand. You can spin something up in the cloud in 2 seconds and you don't not know how to defend it. People are like forgetting all these security misconfigurations freaking everywhere. And I'm like, we've got so many cloud assets totally available on the internet. This is like really bad. This is how Capital One happened and Uber happened and all that crap happened. So become a cloud security expert, become an expert on defending and building in the cloud, and you will be so set up for success for literally ever. And for courses on that, AWS puts out their own training that is phenomenal. Places like Pluralsight, which is like a $30 a month license, that's where I learned my AWS. And now I am the AWS benchmark contributor. I actually helped author the benchmark for AWS. So Pluralsight's a phenomenal place to learn the cloud. I would also, from a little hackery perspective, identify people on LinkedIn whose careers you want to emulate. Like if you want to be a CISO one day, if you want to be the chief privacy officer one day, if you want to be just someone who's like a really, really high up ISO or a sysadmin or a SOC manager or something, but like a SOC manager for Verizon where we were really managing like 10 SOCs, each unto themselves, go find those people, look at what they did before, look at the skills they have, and then figure out how you're going to learn that and emulate it, and then figure out how you're going to do it in half the time. That's what I would do. Follow those people, look at their experience. Okay, so before this, you were an analyst, and before that, you worked here, and before that, you worked here. Great. What did you learn from each of those roles that got you to the next step? And then you can just emulate that.
Awesome, thank you. So wait, what's your goal? Like, what's your end goal?
Oh, so many people ask me that. I don't know what to say. I'm what I call a learn it all. So when I encounter something, I can learn it pretty much really easily. That's one of the reasons I was able to come into cyber so late in life, like barely any time
Wait,
ago.
so what you do before this? Let's go back. What did you do?
I was a social media marketing manager, you guys. I managed social media for Caesars. I was not technical. I could update the operating system on my phone and click update, and that's about as technical as I was. And now, look at me now.
Yeah.
So,
I'm definitely gonna reach out to you. Part-time, I work with transitioning military members trying to get into IT and cyber.
with
And
like
I'm
with the
them
Rosie
pivoting.
project, with the Rosie
No,
project.
it's with the company called Intellectual Point.
Cool.
Yeah.
I should link you up with Anissa Brown then. That would be really exciting. Because she runs to train up military spouses on how to literally get cyber skills to start working in the force. But yeah,
We'll
please
talk.
hit me up. Please hit me up. But like you guys, I literally had no technical skills 4 years ago. April 19th, 2019, I was a non-technical person. So
That's awesome.
do
That's
it.
the day I bought my house, actually. That's
You
awesome.
can do it if you want to. Anybody can do it, but it's not for everybody. That's what I say.
Right.
Yeah. So my journey was very unique, and my journey's out there all over the place. I can send you guys several podcasts where I've already blah about it. But how I did it was I sat down and I looked at those skills. Like everyone was like, oh, go get your OSCP and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why do I need an OSCP? Like, it's like the #1 hacking certification. If you don't have one, we don't even take you seriously. And I looked at the curriculum and I was like, this is all network. This is all firewalls. This is all packet sniffing. And I'm like, none of that is web application. None of that is smart devices. None of that is like all these things that are the future. I'm like, no. So I didn't do that. And they all got really mad at me. Instead, I became an expert in cloud hacking and web app hacking. And like I literally became like the cloud girl. Like my red team hired me because they were like, we don't do when we find these keys. Like we don't do with these. I was like, I know what I would do with that. You can enumerate this. You can check out that. You can do this. You can do that. They're like, great, you do that. And then they took care of a lot of like the user-based stuff, like on endpoints. So, you know, you can find a niche for yourself. Just identify what it is that's like hot and up and coming or no one's doing it, and make yourself a go-to expert in that thing. That's what I did. It worked for me. I'll probably be tackling machine learning next. I wanted to do malware reverse engineering because it's so fun and so sexy, and like it's not going away. Like there's a new piece of malware every day that needs to be reverse engineered. But I don't know, it's gonna be that or machine learning. We'll see. I don't know.
Awesome.
I think AI sounds really fun to me. So that's probably what I'll do. We'll see. I have to pick so few things. Like back when I was in college. And I made my first schedule. I had like all these fun classes on there that I wanted to take. And my dad was like, how many of those actually work towards your degree? And I was like, 1. He was like, great. All the others are going away and you're taking what you have to take. And I'm like, that sucks. I want to take what I want to take and learn all the things, but I can't. You can't learn all the things. You can only learn so many things.
You think your marketing background helped you?
Yes. I leaned heavily on my marketing background for 3 reasons. 1, you got to be able to retain and regurgitate information very quickly to a variety of audiences who don't know what you're talking about, which I do in tech all the time. 2, when I started in cyber, I knew nothing about cyber, but I knew everything about building a brand on social media. So I built my brand on social media very, very quickly because I knew what those strategies were. That's one of the things that set me apart. And 3, public speaking. I'm really, really good at presenting, and a lot of technicians are not. They don't like talking about their work and they don't know how to do it, frankly. The same red team I worked on, a stakeholder at the executive outbrief, right? Not the technical outbrief, the executive outbrief. They're like, why is this bad? And my coworker goes, yeah. So this is how I got in. I blah, 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 evil jinx server, man in the middle. But I'm like, oh my God, you've already lost him. Oh my God, no, this is the wrong information. That's not what he wants to hear. And I was like, this is bad because it proves that by compromising 1 target out of 5,000, we still got domain access to the cloud environment. So it only takes 1 user compromise. And they were like, oh, and I'm like, so I lean on that ability to narrate and storytell security things very frequently. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna, I was just in a Zoom about Intel automation in action. So I'm sorry. Does anyone else have questions? Because I can pop them out.
I just want to follow up on Maril's question. If you guys are still trying to break in or you're not sure what you want to do, Hackers and Heels has a wonderful little quiz available on their website run by my friend Stacey Champagne, where they will literally sit down with you and identify from the soft skills place that you come from, what are the skills you could like harness and bring into cyber, and how you can get into GRC or get into privacy or get into something technical if you want. But they'll help you identify those transferable skills and market yourself appropriately.
What was that? Say that again. I'm sorry.
Hackersandheels.com. They have a quiz on there.
Oh,
Let me see if I can be useful.
Hackers and Heels.
Do it. Do the thing. Excuse me?
Oh, I'll definitely send that out. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Thank you.
What do you mean the site can't be reached? Oh, hacker and heels. That's because I'm pluralizing things. Yes, this. So the quiz right there, /quiz. Hacker and heels /quiz.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Everyone who's like, how do I get into cyber? Where should I start? I'm like, I would start there because it will tell you, again, I leaned on my academic aptitude. I leaned on my public speaking, and that was how I talked my way into cyber. I was like, I will learn everything else. I can learn to bash. I can learn all these things. You can't teach a lot of these soft skills.
Yeah, I find that so hard to tell people your soft skills is really gonna set you apart from a lot of people that are getting into cyber. And that's why I said, working with the military, you have a lot of those soft skills already. It's just about transferring it and translating it in a way to the corporate world that they would understand, that they don't have to teach you, be on time. They don't have to teach you the meeting starts at 10, don't show up at 10:05, that type of, that type of thing. And teamwork, right?
Yeah, and no offense, if you're the guys at the top of your game, you're the top of your freaking game, you're so good at your job, but you're just a jerk to work with, I'm like, no one's gonna work with you. No one's gonna help you on your op, and we don't need people like that here. So like I said, the first thing I do is make myself a people to everybody else. I don't want to be that red teamer that's just I'm here to deliver all your really bad findings. You have no idea who I am. That's not serving anybody. So you need emotional.
The only reason why I'm not showing my face is because my daughter is here.
Oh, don't. I'm the speaker. I have to.
But I think that pushing that out to a lot of people would really help them, especially interviews. Just I have a hard time I don't have a hard time telling the students. I think they have a hard time taking that in, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot hard. It is hard. It's hard. And they have skills that people pay for. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Already, as far as teach me how to be a person that can work with teams. Teach me how to be not an extrovert, but just
I'm like, you're such a good technician. I need you on this project. I can't get rid of you, but you have to go to crucial conversations. You have to go take this Pluralsight course, learn how to deal with personality types, because I can't hold your hand at every meeting. I need you to be your own. Right. So a lot of people don't see where their skills do transfer. They just feel like, I'm so sorry, I'm not as good as you people, and I don't deserve to be here. And I'm the bump on the log. And it's no, you're not. You have to know what you bring, and you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to have a certain level of tenacity. That's what defeats imposter syndrome, is tenacity, to know what you bring and know what its worth is. And that's what I told everybody. I was like, listen, I don't have the skills for this job, but that I will 3 months from now.
Right. Yeah.
And it's worked every time.
Right. I get it. I mean, I get it. Closed mouth don't get fed, right? So you got to open your mouth and present yourself and fight, advocate for yourself, because no one else is going to advocate for you like you are for yourself. Yeah.
I always tell people, you have to know what your value prop is. I know how to value prop our purple team, but I know how to value prop myself as well. Very crucial skill to have. And again, so many technicians cannot do this already. I spend a lot of time teaching hackers how to be better at talking about their work. Mm-hmm. So you guys, anybody, I'm actually going to give a talk at Diana Initiative, which, if you've never heard of it, it's an all-female led hacker cybersecurity conference that happens at the same time as Black Hat DEF CON. Me and one of my mentees, so I broke in 4 years ago, she broke in 6 months ago. We are giving a talk together about our two journeys and how we identified our soft skill strengths, and we relied on them, and we built our careers, and where you can go in 6 months and where you can go in 4 years. And there's going to be a lot of that. It's called Breaking the Mold. So that'll be streamed on YouTube after, if you guys are interested. That's going to be really good for talks like this, telling students, telling prospective people, this is how you identify what you bring to the table. This is how you illustrate the value. This is how you tell them how you make your life easier, or you solve a problem, even though you're not technical right now, but you will be technical later. So that's coming. Cool. Not to plug myself, but I mean, we saw a need and we were like, we should give this talk. So we're going to do it.
No, that's a really big need. And excuse for Carrie, but for women especially, that's a really big need as far as advocating for yourself. Because I'm a mom, I'll advocate for my daughter to the end of the world, right?
But she's got to learn to do it for herself.
But she has to learn, right? So now I'm teaching her that now, like speak up for yourself, things like that, defend yourself. So
and so many women who do make it onto technical teams feel the need to like overwork to prove they deserve to be like, thank you so much for this chance. I'm gonna do 10 times the work of everybody else. But it's like, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. Also, you don't have to be the person who makes graphs prettier or who takes the notes for the meeting. You don't have to do that. If you're a technical person, just be the technical person on the call. That can be someone else's job. It's not on us to take on that load as females and to make it feel like we are just so grateful to have a seat at the table that we'll take whatever job they'll give us. We need to stop that.
Yep, you're exactly right. It almost happened to me at my job. And I was like, first of all, my handwriting sucks. I write notes for myself. I don't write notes for anyone else. You know what I mean? I understand what I write. So you want someone to note take, or you should record these meetings, because that's how I'm not taking notes. I'm not the secretary.
Or they're like, is that important? Can't you cancel that to make this call? I'm like, no, I had a standing obligation. You can move the call time to a time I'm available, or if I don't need to be there, send me the notes. Like, establish those boundaries, especially as a woman, because the second they see you're a pushover on one thing, they'll see what else you're a pushover for. I found myself wanting to do this the other day. I found myself wanting to say like, God, this data flow diagram is a freaking cluster. Nobody can understand it. I want to be like, I can make this better. And I was like, don't do it. It's not your job to make things better. It's not your job to make things prettier. Don't tell them you'll do that now, or they'll have you do it every time. So I just sat there and let it be ugly. It's hard.
Even though it's hard, right? Because you're like, oh man.
I bet I can read her notes, because I had to read the doctor's notes and transcribe them when I was in the military. So
yeah, but
I
learned shorthand. When
Carrie can just be like, I can literally read the unreadable and make it make sense to other people. That's a very useful skill.
I wanted to be a court reporter because I was so damn nosy. So I know shorthand. So that's how I do my notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know how, I mean, again, don't sign yourself up to be the scribe or the secretary every time.
Yeah.
Do you know how helpful that would be at certain stakeholder meetings? That would be phenomenal. Don't tell people to do it.
I don't tell nobody, because that's extra money. I know people that do that for a living. You know what I mean?
If you're good at something, never do it for free, including
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say my last job, I had almost stenographer level notes and I did meeting notes,
but you don't, it's so hard for us to like leave. We need to lean on those strengths to get in, but it's so hard not to bring them with us and define ourselves off of them. So like immediately when you get in, like I always say like I'm only gonna do that for a certain amount of time, but then I'm like someone else's turn, or automate that thing, or buy a tool, dictate if you want. But like now I'm on to other things. I'm on to other responsibilities. I'm not still the scribe you hired 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So use that to get your foot in, but don't let it define who you will be forever. Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you all so much for taking time out of your Wednesday to come listen to me speak at you. I hope you all found it insightful.
Tuesday. Don't say Wednesday.
Oh, is it Wednesday?
Yeah, today's Tuesday.
Actually, it's good it's not Wednesday, because if it was Wednesday, I'd be flying out at 5 a.m. So that's actually good that I have more time. Mom brain. We're going to call that a mom brain minute.
Where are you flying out to?
DC, because I'm flying out to the Cyber Jutsu Awards, which I'm really
you're going. That's right. That is this weekend. That's right.
We'll see if I win one. I don't have any faith, but I would love to lose to any woman in my category, so that's fine. They are.
Wait, what category are you in?
I am nominated for Rising Star and for Pen Test Ninja, so like Woman Pen Tester of the Year, basically.
I think.
Good luck.
See, you too can go from not knowing what a terminal shell is to being Pen Tester of the Year if you want.
I kind of, Linux is really sick because it uses a terminal.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me still though, y'all. So we'll see. You'll see the LinkedIn post if it happens. Cross your fingers for me.
I think my mentee is up for that too.
Really? What's her name?
Chris Lemon.
Yes. Oh, she's up for Cybersecurity Woman of the Year.
Yeah.
The Cyber Advocate category. That's a completely separate set of awards. It's so stupid. I know I'm going to talk about all the awards I'm up for. So Cyber Jutsu Awards is totally separate from the United Cyber Alliance Awards. So I'm up for Rising Star and Pen Test Ninja for Cyber Jutsu, and then I'm up for Pen Tester of the Year for United Cyber Alliance Cyber Woman of the Year, and then I'm also up for Technologies Cyber Advocate of the Year. I don't know you guys. I don't know how this happened.
You
Don't know.
got this. You got, I have
Don't
faith
know
in
who's
you.
out there submitting these on my behalf, but I love them so much. So good times. But yeah, we'll see. So Alyssa will follow along for the LinkedIn post, but tell Chris I love her work. I just plugged her in a post yesterday. I love everything she's doing to get students to Black Hat, and I asked my company if we could sponsor a few of her students. So
Yeah, I asked my company too. I met her through WiCyS. She asked me to be her mentor, and I was like, girl, I just got out the military. I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
yeah, you're like, what are all these things? But
Right.
thank you so much, Nicole and Liz. I think she's phenomenal. By the way, tell her like I love her. If she ever asks, just
I will.
tell
will.
her I love her from afar.
You'll see her. She's giving a talk too, so definitely talk to her. You'll see her.
Well, I will walk. That's one thing. If you see me in person, like people are like afraid to talk to me in person. Like someone came up to me at RSA of all places and talked to me. Like I was afraid to like bug you. I'm like, please bug me. Like that's fine. But like I will walk right up to someone I don't know and be like, hi, we're best friends now, in case you didn't know.
This was awesome. I appreciate it so much.
I appreciate the wonderful questions. You all, this has been like actually one of the best groups I've ever spoken to. So awesome.
I have to
Yeah,
get my
this is awesome.
antennas.
Do you want to stop the recording? Because I think we're at time and I'm so
Yes.
sorry. I do have to leave.